Hi, welcome to SimplyNAS Media. Today we're going to take a look at the new QNAP TVS-1271U-RP. So this unit comes in four flavors. There's a Pentium processor, an i3 processor, an i5 processor, and an i7 processor. They also come with various different RAM levels for that processor. The Pentium and the i3, the Pentium comes with 4 gig, the i3 comes with 8. The i5 will come with 16 gig of RAM, and the i7 will come with a full whack of 32 gig. Just because you buy a lower processor doesn't mean you can't go up to the 32 gig of RAM. All of the NASes are interchangeable in terms of RAM. You cannot buy a Pentium processor version and upgrade the processor. The motherboard's very different, you get different architecture on the NAS. So do buy the processor that you want for now and for the future, rather than just for now thinking you can upgrade the processor. It is not possible. Aside from that, this is the new 12-bay rack mount NAS that has taken over from QNAP to take over from the 1271U-RP, the 1269U-RP. So this will be, it's one box to take over and upgrade for two boxes. It is a jump up on the 1269U if you go from, let's say, the i5 or higher. The i3 or higher. On the 1279 it's a jump up if you go from the i5 or higher. So the i3 is your exact replacement for your 1269U, and the i5 and above is your exact replacement for the 1279U. The i7 processor is above both of those two specs. It's the fastest spec you can get on the 12-bay NAS at the moment, unless you move to an EC Series X80 NAS, which is of course Xeon based. This will do very good for you in an office environment for file sharing, of course, because typically that's all we use NAS for. But because of the added processing power on the i5 and the i7, you can now use this quite happily in your VMware infrastructure. You can use this to do your Veeam backup. You can use this as a data load for your virtual machine, so you don't have to fill up your virtual machine server. Then QNAP, of course, take it a step further. This is QNAP Virtualization Station enabled as well. With that, it means you can run multiple OSs on this NAS. It'll allow you to run, let's say, Windows Server as well on your NAS if you'd like. Kind of takes away the overhead of having a second server. But do bear in mind, when you start doing that, you've taken a lot of overhead on this NAS, because Windows Server itself takes a lot of overhead and a lot of performance, so your file sharing may slow down. So it may be a better cost-effective solution to buy two NASes as opposed to a NAS and a server. It'd still end up being cheaper than buying, let's say, a fully whacked out HP server that'll cost you about 15-16 grand. That being said, you're taking a general look at your NAS. I've already delved into the information. You've got your 12 bays at the front, you've got your power button at the front. You've also got your status and LED indicators on the ear here. Just simple LED indicators. You do lose the LCD, unfortunately, when it comes to the 12 bay and above, for the simple reason they don't have the room here anymore. They've given you bays instead. But bear in mind, your web UI will send you any type of notifications that you want as well. The status LEDs do help. Green means everything's okay, red means something's bad, yellow means network activity's gone and something's also on its way to going bad. Generally check your hard drives when that happens. It's really the only thing that'll fail on your NAS. Aside from that, taking a look at the front is pretty simple. We'll spin you around the back and take a look at the ports and the connections at the back, and then we'll bring you back around. Okay, taking a look at the back of the NAS. Very simple layout, as it's a rack mount NAS rather than a home NAS. There's not too much going on back here. You've got your 4 RJ45s at the top. You can bond them together, link aggregate them, get better network performance. We generally do a 2x2, so that way you have a failover if something goes wrong with these two. Two IP addresses basically then between 4 ports. That'll give you a 2 gig uplink. That's generally ample. Networks don't generally use more than a 2 gig uplink. They're generally bottlenecks. So, I mean, you can do a 4 gig uplink, but don't expect a major performance uptake. You've got your USB 2.0 ports, keyboard, mouse, monitor, what have you. USB 3.0 ports. Again, you can use it for keyboard, mouse and stuff, but generally we reserve those for, let's say, external hard drives. Just because USB 3 is faster than USB 2, so it's better to connect hard drives there now. Of course, if you've got a USB 2 hard drive, it doesn't matter, but we generally recommend backing up to USB 3 hard drives now, otherwise you'll be there for days with the amount of data that you can have on these NASes. You've got your 2 powered PSUs here. They are removable, so if something does fail, let's say one PSU goes out, the other one does fail over, you don't have to send the whole box back to QNAP. They'll just take the power supply from you and send you a new power supply. You've also got your 2 expansion units here. 2 expansion slots, sorry. So these slots are basically can be used in two ways. You can use both these slots for network expansions, 1 gig, or you can use both the slots for network expansions, 10 gig, or you can use both the slots for 2 different purposes. You can use one for network expansion and one for the SAS expansion. Generally, if you plan on expanding your NAS, if you feel as though you'll go over your raw limitation, remember this NAS in itself, the 12-bay, be it the Pentium series all the way up to the i7, it can handle 1,120 terabytes of raw volume. So that's with expansion units, you'll use 8 REXP16 base to achieve that. So do bear in mind that is a very possible scenario for you in the future, rather than you having to buy a whole new NAS, especially if you bought the i5 or the i7 version, because the main reason there was to future-proof yourself. So because you've done that, expansion units will be important to you in the future. You want to try and get the best bang out for your buck, right? So one of these slots we generally say reserve for SAS. I mean, if you need 10 gig network connectivity on both, great, you have to do what you have to do. Do remember though, if you do go for 10 gig on both, you cannot bond the 2 10 gig cards. It's just not possible because they're onboard PCI cards. So you can bond, if you've got a dual port 10 gig, you can bond that card within itself, but you can't bond 2 expansion cards together. So generally, because of that, we typically say get a quad port or a dual port 10 gig and leave the other one for a SAS card for an expansion unit. That way you do have that possibility in the future. You don't want to take away from having the ability to have extra raw data and expanding this NAS as opposed to buying a whole new NAS. NASs are inexpensive, we do appreciate that, but that being said, expansion units are even more inexpensive, so it's better to save yourself a little bit more. Aside from that, we'll spin you back around to the front so you can just take a look at the front, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the NAS and summate the video. Thank you. Okay, that was taking a look at the back of the NAS. Just generally saw your network ports, your USB ports. That's really all there is to this. I did forget to mention the HDMI port that's there at the back as well, next to the USB ports. You can connect a monitor up using that. We'll speak a bit more about that now. The HDMI functionality has basically been forwarded to every single QNAP NAS now. Previously, a year ago, there were only select NASs that had it for the main uses of HD Station. So you can connect your NAS up to your TV. HD Station has now been rebranded. It still exists as HD Station, but it's within a system called QVPC now. There's QNAP's virtual PC mode. Basically what you'll do is you'll connect any type of QNAP NAS now via HDMI. You can do various other things with it on the home NAS, so you can play media, etc. But because we're talking about a rack mount, we're not very interested in that. The main usage out of the rack mount is going to be simple. You can do 3 things. The first is access the web UI without needing a network console. That's very handy for us networkers, especially when we're in a server room, can't be bothered to get to a computer right now. We've got our monitor hooked up to our servers and we'll just use that. You can buy a VGA dongle. We do sell one here at SimplyNAS that will connect via HDMI and allow you to connect your NAS to your KVM switch if you use that in the server house as well. That way you don't have to go get another monitor just specifically for the NAS. So we do sell that. I think it's about $29 to $30, not a big uptake. Actually $34 maybe the price. But that being said, we do sell it so you can have that accessory to do that in your server room. The second use will be for your virtual machines. Let's say you've hooked up Windows Server to this. Your Windows Server is not typically a console operating system. It doesn't work over a web UI. You need local access, so the HDMI is there for that. The USB 2.0 ports for your keyboard and mouse, so you can use this as a Windows Server quite easily. The third usage is probably the easiest usage. Let's say for whatever reason you've decided not to buy a configured NAS from SimplyNAS. You've taken away your ease of mind because that is what you've done. Because you'll get DOAs, well, knock on wood, but the chances of getting DOAs are higher now. We would have tested and set up your NAS, you wouldn't have to do any of this. But that being said, let's say you've gone and bought a diskless NAS from us. You can connect up via HDMI instead of using network and actually set up the NAS using a networkless setup. That being said, after you've done that setup, QNAP are marketing this, so we'll speak about it. After you've done that setup, you are going to have to connect to a network afterwards. It's not going to connect to your network over HDMI, it's not going to work over HDMI. The HDMI functionality previous to setup is purely there so you can set up NAS, set up your RAID configuration, and not have it on the network as an overhead while it's setting yourself up and RAIDing. I mean, you've bought a diskless NAS off us, it's going to take you a day to set it up. It takes us a day to set it up. So really, I mean, between the two, it's better we set it up for you. Something fails, we replace it. Something fails at you, you've got to go through an RMA process. You have to wait about a week for the DOA turnaround time. Remember, there are no advanced replacements unless you've bought an advanced replacement service plan. So really, still best to get rack mount NASs, especially enterprise class and higher business class NASs. It's better to get them pre-configured from us. It'll just help you in the long run. You've got an ease of mind in terms of setup. The drives have been tested. Everything's been batch controlled. When you go out and buy hard drives, you're just going to receive them from the same batch. So we do our own batch control for hard drives. You can buy spare hard drives if you'd like. But I mean, it's just easy to have the range set up. As soon as you get this, you unbox it, you plug it in, you rock and roll. So remember, NAS bit testing is just peace of mind, is really what it is. Aside from that, of course, the 12 bay is QNAP cloud enabled as well. If you do want to use that in the office, typically in an office we recommend a VPN environment. It's just much more secure. Remember, it's an office environment rather than a home environment, so VPN is probably the best way to go. That being said, if you're a small business and you've opted for a bigger NAS because you have the data capacity, that's fine. QNAP Cloud works absolutely fine for you. You can use the QNAP Cloud key that's located on the top of your NAS to set it up, or you can go to start.qnap.com, put in your cloud key there, and just rock and roll and follow the setups there and start up the NAS as well on the remote access. That will give you access to the NAS when you're sitting in America, when you're sitting in USA, when you're sitting in Australia, when you're sitting in Ireland, wherever you are in the world, you can access all your data. You can also upload to the NAS. You can also keep an eye on what's going on with the NAS. It will send you notifications. The Android applications specifically now have push notifications enabled for, let's say, if a hard drive fails or something goes wrong. The iOS applications do not yet. QNAP typically takes a little bit longer to update its iOS applications because of Apple's red tape and their design requirements and their application requirements and getting it through to the store. Aside from that, that's our summation of the QNAP TVS-1271U-RP. Remember, you get it in 4 flavors: Pentium, i3, i5 and i7. Comes all the way up to 32 gig of RAM. The flavors do have their own RAM. If you get the i7, you don't need to upgrade your RAM, it comes fully loaded. Aside from that, always remember, subscribe to our videos. That way, if we send something new, you get notified. Like our video if you did like the content. We do always like suggestions as well. You may leave comments. If there's a specific video we haven't done yet that you'd like us to cover, please do leave us a video and we're looking to leave us a comment, sorry, and we will look into doing that video for you. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you and have a wonderful day.